rolling.
Rolling, 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 though the streams are swollen, keep them doggies rolling, roll hard.
Ci raccontate com'è nata la Blues Brothers Band?
Started from a skit on the Saturday Night Live show, and Tom and I were in the band. Tom was musical director at the time.
Here's it almost didn't get started. I was at the first meeting, John, Danny, and myself, and they were developing these characters that wore sunglasses day and night. So I wrote an arrangement of a song, and we did it for Lorne Michaels, the producer, rehearsed the band. Lou was in the band. Didn't make the show. Lorne Michaels turned us down. So the next week I wrote an arrangement of another song. Actually, it was Hey Bartender. We rehearsed the band. We did it for Lorne Michaels. This is week number 2. Lorne says, frankly, I don't see anything funny about the Blues Brothers. So week number 3, John, Danny, Blues Brothers, they were wasting our time. John and Danny gave up on the Blues Brothers week number 3. They said, we're wasting our time if Lorne doesn't like it. If we're not getting on, we got to move on. Okay. So the third week, Lorne comes out of read-through Wednesday about 3:15, and he says, the show's 3 minutes short. What the hell are we going to do? We can edit that out. And John and Danny jumped on Lorne and said, Lorne, the Blues Brothers. So Lorne says, well, we have nothing worthwhile to put in those 3 minutes. You guys might as well make fools of yourselves. He put the Blues Brothers on the show. And if I remember correctly, he put it at the end of the show, so if the show ran long, he could just cut it. But the show did not run long. The Blues Brothers were on, and I guess the rest is history.
Next Monday morning, phones were ringing like crazy.
Caught the cater and left me a mule to ride.
Il film, impossibile riassumere un fenomeno di tale portata in poche parole, ma se doveste descriverlo a chi non l'ha mai visto, come lo descrivereste?
Well, obviously it's a comedy, and there's, I think, you know, in the initial weeks when it premiered, the critics, they just attacked it. They hated it.
La cadi, dov'è la cadi? La che?
We got horrible reviews. And the first weekend for the release, both New York and Los Angeles, the biggest markets, had horrible weather, big rainstorms. And so the amount of people who came to the movie was a third of what they were hoping for. And I think people sort of thought they were writing it off. But then we had this gig in Los Angeles, opening act for Steve Martin. And that was at the time when Steve Martin was at the height of his popularity. And I can remember every night was a standing ovation. And I have a vivid memory of looking out and seeing Jack Nicholson. And he looked at me and he went, wow, and put his sunglasses back down. So, you know, the critics may not have liked it, but people love it everywhere. I remember being in Skiathos in the Greek islands a few years after the movie, and some little kid was playing with a toy car on the street, and he looked up at me and he said, "Blue Lou." So, you know, it just, there's something about it. I think it's something sweet about it that people love.
E com'è andata con il sequel? Che esperienza è stata lavorarci?
Well, I wasn't in the original movie, I was in the second movie. And I was in the strip club scene. So, of course, that was fun. Actually, the most memorable part of that was there was a scene where I guess there was a gunshot. And so we were told, okay, when this blank gun, obviously, but when this gun goes off, you know, we want everybody to to kind of scatter. And there was no rehearsal for it. So finally, it's that moment of truth, and you hear, pow! And everybody, just, including myself, just sprawling down. So, it was an honor to be part of the second movie. Because, by that time I was in the Saturday Night Live show. And I knew kind of the history of all of that. And to be part of it again was really kind of an honor.
Lo vedi? Le vie del Signore sono infinite, Mac.
There's one thing too that in the second movie, the first movie was like a rocket ship ride. Everything happened so fast, the band, the record, and then the next thing you know, we're making a movie, and it was crazy. The second movie, for me, was a much richer experience because anytime that anybody had a scene, I went to the set. So I got to know the carpenters, the stuntmen. One of the stuntmen was a saxophone player, and I gave him lessons and got to know the wardrobe people. And so you sort of saw that all the people, the supporting people that work on movies, I found them to be really dedicated and super professional, So in that regard, it was really a learning experience. And I remember too that in the closing scene when we were all in the car, and we actually were all crammed into that car together, we did the little drive-through, and then John Landis came up to us and said, "Okay, cut, that's a wrap, you're done." And we had been there for 2 months or so, basically, most of the time, right? Or 3 months. And well, I felt a real sense of, it was over with, and it was sort of sad, It was like, oh man, I'm gonna miss this. It was a lovely experience.
I have a story about the second movie that nobody's ever heard. I was the music director at Saturday Night Live from 81 to 85. In 1982, my friend John Belushi passed away. In 1983, his brother Jim Belushi comes on the cast of Saturday Night Live. So he and I were instant friends. But Jim was kind of hard to work with at the show as an actor. The writers would write him scripts. He would read it, tear it up, and throw it in the trash, say, "I'm not reading that in the read-through." So this went on for a couple of weeks. He's getting paid to be an actor. He's not getting on the show. So we have a production meeting, and let's call Jim's manager and have him talk to Jim. So Jim's manager calls Jim. Jim fires his manager. So we hired a guy named Rob Riley, who used to write for Jim at Second City in Chicago, and he came in just to write for Jim. And we had many successful things on the show with Jim. He turned out to be very successful. Okay, fast forward 16 years. Dan Aykroyd is writing the script for the Blues Brothers 2000 movie. Okay, so he's going to be Elwood, of course, and Jim Belushi is going to be Jake. So John Landis and Dan Aykroyd are trying to sell this movie to Universal Pictures. Guess who the president of Universal Pictures is? The manager that Jim fired. And he will not sign the movie until Jim is carved out. So they're meeting every day, they're getting nowhere. One day, Aykroyd says, "How about John Goodman as Jake? Here's your deal, here's your money, go make your movie." Just like that.
Lou e Tom, voi c'eravate sin dagli inizi, mentre Tommy e Leon siete arrivati in seguito. Come siete riusciti a mantenere l'identità della band nonostante le partenze e i nuovi arrivi?
Tommy?
The beautiful thing of this, and I asked John Landis, why is it so popular? He said, and why has it lasted so long, the test of time, for little kids, 80-year-old, everyone loves it. He said, because it's the best Halloween costume. It's very easy to get a hat and the sunglasses. So the Halloween keeps the Blues Brothers going. But in Europe, it's a cult following. It's very popular. Like, as in the United States, there was a movie, Rocky Horror Show. So everybody comes to the movie and dresses like the thing, and they throw the bread and they throw water. The Blues Brothers is the same thing. We come to a concert, everybody, people are dressed like the Blues Brothers. They have blues mobiles. Last night was a perfect example. And it's a cult thing. And they pass it on to the next generation. Their kids know about it, 8 to 80.
You look out in the audience, and not only are people our age who saw the movie originally singing and know the words, but all these young kids are singing along. They all know the words, so something nice about that.
Avete collaborato con artisti che hanno scritto la storia della musica mondiale. Ci raccontate le vostre più significative collaborazioni?
Well, geez, like Cab Calloway, to get to know him, when he was like a superstar in the 30s, he was like Elvis Presley in the 30s, and he was...
Hey folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher.
A generous, lovely man. And then we got to work with Ray Charles, with James Brown, with Aretha. I was lucky to work with Aretha a lot of times. And in Aretha's duets TV special, Leon was the musical director. So the experiences with all those people, there's too many to even mention, and of course, like as far as all of us playing, Stevie Wonder, Tony Bennett, the OJs, the Temptations, the Four Tops. Basically it'd be easier to say who we haven't played with among all four of us. Between all of us, I think the only person we haven't worked with was Frank Sinatra.
Qual è stata la vostra performance più memorabile?
Red Rocks Coliseum. There was only one real Blues Brothers tour, and it was 5 weeks long. Chartered 707 airplane. It was in May and June 1980 to coincide with the release of the movie. And we played a concert in Red Rocks, which is near Denver, Colorado. It's a natural amphitheater that's 2 miles high, and they had oxygen backstage for the horn players because you would get dizzy just blowing the horns. There were 2 bodyguards for John Belushi, and the people, it was first come first serve for the seating. You couldn't buy a reserved seat, so people showed up the night before, and they slept in their seats. And by the time the show started, the people were drinking and doing drugs, and it got crazy. And so in the middle of the concert, this giant guy that looked like he weighed about 300 pounds gets up and he starts lumbering towards John. And it goes boom, 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 right like this. So Bill Superfoot Wallace was one of the bodyguards. He's about 5'10", weighs about 165. He was a world middleweight karate champion for 9 years. And he walks up to the guy like he's going to shake his hand, and he just goes bloop like this, and the guy turns all the way over, lands flat on his back, unconscious. And it took 6 guys to carry him off the stage.
Tagliamo la corda che è meglio.
Anche se non è qui, ma è qui e non posso non nominarlo, John Belushi. Posso chiedervi un vostro ricordo?
Well, I didn't get to meet him because he had passed away already. So, but I heard great things. And he was a drummer. So I used to be a drummer, so I had much affection for him.
Last time I saw John Belushi, there was a band called the Stink Band in New York, and it was Peter Aykroyd, Dan Aykroyd's brother, and Tom Davis from the comedy team Franken and Davis from Saturday Night Live. And it wrote these really strange, unusual songs that you couldn't put on the radio. But and sometimes I would play bass in the band, and sometimes John would play drums in the band. So we played at the Lone Star Roadhouse on 13th Street one night. And I've got my bass and my amp and everything, and it's raining like crazy outside. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get home. And knowing that John has a limo, I said, John, you got to take me home. He says, fine, but you got to come over to the house and hang out. So we would go over to John's house, and he puts on this new record that he bought by a group called Black Flag, kind of a punk group. and he turns it up so loud that he blows out one of the speakers. He goes flap, 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 flap. And he curses, and he puts the album in a cover and gives it to me. He says, take it home and listen to it. I got more copies of it. And then the cat had kittens, and they're trying to give him a kitten, and no, I don't. And so, and then about 5 a.m, John put me in the car and sent me home. That was the last time I saw him. We were good friends. We lived less than a quarter mile away from each other in Greenwich Village, and
well, that tour, we were all in Belushi's room, and he wanted to do a song. He wanted to add a song to the list, and he was trying to tell us what the song was. But the way he was singing it was this guttural sort of rhythmic grunt, you know, and he was going like, and we could not figure out what he was trying to sing. And suddenly Tom Scott realized it, and he says, it's Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66. But he was just sort of grunting. We could not stop laughing, you know. No, he was fantastic.
What are you talking about? Don't talk to me that way!
Leon, hai anche tu un pensiero per John?
I never got a chance to meet him either, as Tommy, but everything that I heard was very special about the guy. And, you know, that was within the first 5 years of the show. Mm-hmm. I came in the 6th year of the show. So I heard all the stories, not all the stories, but a lot of the stories. The ones that we can repeat.
Well, you know, we used to call him the black hole. I remember one time he came in, I went into his dressing room. He had this small little dressing room, really. And he said, hey, you have a pen? I need to autograph something. So I had this Mont Blanc pen, this beautiful, expensive pen. And I gave it to Belushi. He autographed it. We're talking. And then I say, hey, man, I got to get back on set. You know, give me my pen.
La penna.
We could not find the pen in a little tiny dressing room. It was gone.
John è ancora un'ispirazione per voi oggi?
Well, I think, yeah, in a way he is, because if it wasn't for him and Danny and their idea, their crazy idea, we've played thousands of concerts since 1988 all over the world. We've been to Japan like 20 times with the band. So it's sort of a gift that keeps on giving.
Dan Aykroyd cerca di essere ancora con voi in qualche modo?
No, not really. We don't have much contact with him, but when we do, he's always super gracious. And throughout the history of the Blues Brothers, the signal aspect has been the generosity in the original band of John Belushi and Danny, and in the years since. I mean, we used to open up the House of Blues in various locations around the country, and he was always super generous and lovely to all of us. So we always sort of tip our hat to Danny.
I was privileged to play at the grand opening of the Joliet Prison Museum. If you remember in the Blues Brothers movie, the Blues Brothers movie starts and ends at the prison in Joliet. So the prison was decommissioned in 2002, and now they have changed it. Instead of tearing it down, they have changed it into a Blues Brothers museum. And I was a guest artist with Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi as the Blues Brothers in last August 2022. There were 7,000 people there, and I'm going back there on September 9th for the second anniversary of what they call Blues Brothers Con 2.
È la vostra prima volta in Svizzera?
Oh, we've been here many times. We played in Zurich, we played in Bern. So Lucerne, yeah, we played in Bellinzona. He had a photo of us together. And we know we played in Locarno, I think around 2015. We've played in Lugano. The concert was fantastic. I mean, it was totally full of people. Everybody singing along, everybody dancing. The technicians were great. The sound was great. People said out front that it sounded terrific. So we had a good time.
High quality audience. The audience loved us, and that's what we go for, is to communicate with the audience. Sometimes it's a small audience, sometimes it's a big audience, but we communicated with them, and that was good.
Quali sono i vostri progetti futuri?
Well, as long as we're still healthy, we'll keep playing.
I Blues Brothers sono davvero fratelli o siete solo una band?
No, we're brothers. It wouldn't be still happening if we didn't all love each other, you know. I mean, typical, we play in Reggio Calabria. We take this ferry across the Straits of Messina. It's absolutely beautiful. Take photographs on the boat, drive down the coast to Catania. We get to the airport in Catania. Total chaos. The power is out. Our flight is in 3 hours or something like that. For the first 2 hours, we just stand along with thousands of people. It's hot. There's no power. Suddenly, the lights come back on. Everybody starts cheering. One by one, we finally make it. We get on a plane. It's an hour and a half late. We arrive in Barcelona. Our gate is gate 37. 20 steps away is gate 35. We get off our plane. We go into the next gate. We get on our plane. Somehow we make it to Bilbao. Typical Blues Brothers.
But our bags didn't.
Yeah, no bags, but we made it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Right.
Dance to the jailhouse rock. Dance to the jailhouse rock. Was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Dancing to the jailhouse rock. Everybody on the old sub-block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Everybody on the old sub-block was dancing to the jailhouse rock.